Hello, my name is Christopher Guyton, and I have once again been tasked with implementing a new mechanic into this data-driven, tile-based game project. The mechanic that I have implemented was originally designed by Kristen Gregory, and it is a teleportation portal. Now, in Kristen's original design, she had teleportation portals that allowed the player or an interactable to move throughout the level and visit areas that were not previously accessible. As a caveat, in my design, I have created two different types of teleportation portals, one that works for the player and one that works for the interactable objects, and I've given them different colors so that it's a bit more clear as to which is which. Now, let's just see a quick demonstration of how the teleportation mechanic works. Player will walk straight into this teleporter. It'll make the player disappear briefly for a second, play a sound effect, and then the player will appear at a different point in the level. Now, currently, the player cannot traverse over the bridge that is necessary to finish this level, and that's because the player has not completed the puzzle that I have laid out here. So let's go back through the original teleporter, and the player will have to use one of my mechanics, my levers, in order to open these doors and head through into another teleporter. And here the player is presented with the fact that there is a teleporter here that is supposed to be used for the interactable object. So the player can move the box. And actually, I've created another mechanic that allows the player to move the camera. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And push the box into that area. And now the player has to go back through the original teleporter and use the lever again to reopen that door. But what are they going to do with this this box? Well, there's a discolored tab. There's a discolored tile on the map, and you notice if you step on it, it'll create a new lever. But if you step off of it, the lever will disappear. So, what's the player to do? Well, we have this new interactable. So why don't we go ahead and push the interactable. Oop. And we've created a new lever. Now we can go up to the lever, use it, and create a bridge. And then the player can appear and successfully win the stage.
Good work.
Okay, so how did I create the teleporter? Well, it's actually fairly simple. First, I created a child blueprint of the tile blueprint, and then I added a plane on top of it, of the tile. And on that plane, just for aesthetics, I put a material, like a kind of a shiny material. And on the version for boxes, I just gave that material a different color, like I said earlier, so that those could be differentiated. But then I just added a few variables. One is a bool variable that is just called active teleporter. And that's going to control whether or not the teleporter will send the player somewhere if it's stepped on. The reason for this, as you'll see later when we look into the blueprint, though, is that the teleporter actually sends the player to another teleporter and then chucks them off. And what I don't want is for the player to touch the teleporter and be sent right back to where they came, because that would create like sort of an infinite loop weird situation. And so that's what that bool is for. And then there's two tile references. One is exit, which dictates where the tile, which tile the player is going to exit onto after they have teleported. And then the next is reverse, which basically is the tile that it's going to send the player to. You probably have a better name, but I would change that at some point. So here's the blueprint for the teleporter. So there's two sections here. One is for the initial exit when the player uses the teleporter, and then one is for what happens when the player goes back to the teleporter and needs to go back to where they came from. So Both use the event on entered function event. And first, it'll check to see if active teleporter is true or false. Now, let's go through the false scenario first. So, if the active teleporter is false, oh, actually, sorry. Let's go through true first because that'll be more intuitive. So, if the active teleporter is true, then the player first it'll check to see if the player object is valid. And if it is, it'll set the player hidden in game to true. So that's where the disappearing effect comes from. And then it'll play a sound effect at the location, which is just a stock sound effect, I think, from the portal a portal project that I have. And then it'll do a delay of like 2.5 seconds. I kind of want to tweak the delay a little bit so that it's more in line with the sound effect. But the sound effect is actually kind of long, so maybe that would change anyway. It does a delay for 2.5 seconds, and then it'll move the player to the tile, which is the teleporter that it is being sent to, and then it sets active teleporter to false on that. And then in the false scenario, this is when it's the player is being sent back. So if it's false, it'll check to see if the player is valid. It'll set actor hidden in game to true to not hidden, right? And then the player will exit onto the right tile, and it'll set active teleporter to true. And actually, it pretty much does the same thing for if you want to see the box version. Let's load that up really quickly. I can show you the box version. It does the same thing, essentially. It's just checking to see if the interactable is valid instead of whether the player is valid. And like I said, it has a similar material, just a different color. So that's pretty much it. That's how it works. Thanks for watching.